I want to go to the Skype here. We've got the pizza dude on the line, or pizza guy from North Dakota. You're on. Go ahead.
All right. I want to kind of recap a topic I brought up when Mark wasn't around, which was a bit of a mistake, and hoping we could maybe get deep into it tonight.
All right.
So I guess to kind of recap the topic, I really liked, after I listened to the whole conversation myself on the podcast.
What conversation? Yeah. What are we talking about?
Yeah. So what I like to, it's about what should you vote for, right? So if we take for granted that voting is something that ought to be done, what ought to be voted for is the big question.
When you ask that question, do you mean like what are the reasons one should vote, or because normally you're voting for people, right? Like, well, I guess I don't understand what you're saying.
Yeah, by what criteria do you choose the people which you vote for? Right? So obviously, if you're voting, you're probably going to be voting for a lesser of two evils. That's almost a granted.
It's common, but I tend to try to avoid doing that personally. If I don't really feel motivated.
If you're voting for a person, you're voting for the lesser of two evils.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's sometimes some really principled people running here in New Hampshire.
They're still going to vote one time the way you don't want them to vote.
Probably true.
And so therefore they are the lesser of two evils.
I don't think I've ever voted for anything. I vote against things.
Yeah, agreed. I do pretty much the same thing, but what you're doing at that point is voting against the greater evil.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay. And so what I really like doing was breaking it down into numbers, so we're not thinking about people. And so let's just, so it's numbers and we can think about it rationally. Let's call status quo 100 violence or 100 badness or whatever. With the principle of harm reduction, obviously it would be rational if the only viable option out there to vote for was a bunch of 95s. But there is a 50 out there. Obviously, if you are going to cast a vote, you'd want to cast and support a 50 out there, right?
All right, stand by. We'll let you come back here and continue in a moment. You can take control of the airwaves here on Free Talk Live. Pizza Dude on the line from North Dakota. You were getting into a discussion. You said Mark wasn't here the last time you called about this, and you wanted to get his perspective. And you were describing putting politicians on some sort of a rating scale that 100 would be the status quo of, total violence that we currently have today in the state, and that a, lower than 100 number rating would be somebody who supports less violence. So you gave a 50 as an example, like a human politician who is less violent than the others. That's kind of where you were going. Go ahead.
Sure, it was where I was going, and and I guess the point that I didn't make that I think becomes salient in this discussion, because I know how dead set against you are against what I see as the 50, is that the politician that would be the middle ground between where we are now and libertarian paradise, the politician that would be that middle ground, dirty, filthy compromise, that politician would have to advocate for that middle ground. So what I'm trying to say is that if you support compromise and you support incrementalism, to get from here to there, you have to support somebody who advocates that middle ground. So everything they say won't necessarily be principled, liberty-oriented, because they'll be a disgusting, filthy, ridiculous politician, and that's exactly what it'll look like.
So
they won't say the right things.
Yeah, it's not that I disagree with you. I certainly don't. I believe that one thing's for certain: we're going to have. I assume you're talking about Rand Paul.
Sure.
And I'm going to.
That's only because I told you that was off the air. That was what.
No, I know what.
You would have figured it out on your own?
I've got this all figured out.
Okay.
Well, first off,
I find this all ridiculous.
I completely dismiss Ian's opinion on this because Rand Paul said nasty things about pot smokers, and that is Ian's one particular issue.
What the hell are you talking about? Rand Paul also said nasty things about immigrants. He also said nasty things about committing war on people around the world.
His dad wasn't particularly great on immigrants either.
His dad was better than Rand Paul was, and his dad was better on so many different issues than Rand Paul.
I'm not so sure that Ron Paul was any better than Rand Paul when it came to immigration or to gays or any number of other subjects, but go ahead, Mark.
Here's another point, though. Rand Paul said Yeah, he's a politician. He's opening his mouth. He's lying.
He's a libertarian Frank Underwood, and if anybody's watched House of Cards or hasn't, then I'm sorry if you don't get the reference. But I mean, it's this thing that you're going to basically go into Washington and you're going to play the game, and you're going to go,
ridiculous.
You're going to hustle all these people, and you're going to gain the power, and then all of a sudden things are going to be so much better because you went and screwed over. Look, Rand Paul has both libertarians and neocon warhawks eating out of the same trough. Okay, somebody's getting screwed here. All right, and usually my study of history leads me to believe it's the libertarians, it's the people who care about freedom who get screwed when we're dealing with the state. But he's screwing somebody over. To master the art of political doublespeak in such a fashion as to have John McCain and Ron Paul fans eating out of the same trough he's lying to someone really badly.
Well, and here,
unique. It's unique. That's different. That's new.
It's not new.
Ooh, lying. Ooh, let's get excited about a politician who's going to tell lies. And you know what? Just listening to you, Pizza Guy, it's so disheartening. I mean, hearing somebody who knows the ideas of freedom, listening to you make excuses for a guy who you believe is telling lies. You're coming right out and you're saying you think this guy's lying to people, and you're excited about that. I mean, to me, that's twisted.
Yeah. What, Mark, you said you support Rand Paul, though.
So,
I want to hear Mark's end of this.
Okay, so I'm of the opinion that that Rand Paul is a better choice of president than the vast majority of candidates that will be available. And so, therefore, I'm going to support him in the primary. I'm going to have to vote for – I don't have to vote for somebody, but – if I don't, other people will vote for somebody in the primary. Also, I don't think the primary can be argued at any point to be aggression against your neighbor because it is not binding. The person who wins the primary is not the president. And that's the only election we need to look at right now. So if, you know, you're not going to go in and vote Republican-y and you're running Democrat. So your opinion is moot in this circumstance. It doesn't matter what you say. The only thing that matters is what Republicans
no, it
choose.
actually does matter.
I'm a registered Republican.
Okay.
It does matter, actually, what I say, because we're having a discussion on the radio where people are thinking, should I support this character? And I'd like to give reasons why this is absolutely ridiculous, especially when I hear the
So who
pizza
should they
guy.
support in the primary?
I don't care. Nobody. They're all a bunch of scumbags.
See,
Look,
that is not an
it
answer.
doesn't matter.
You will have a president in 2016, you Nimrod.
No, I
you
will
might
not.
As well, yes,
I do
you
not
will.
have a president. I'm not interested in having a
Enough
president.
people in the United States will have a president that they can put a bullet in your head. So
That's
therefore,
fine.
you'll
Go
have a
ahead.
president.
They know where to find me. So anyway, the point I wanted to make here is listening to you, Pizza Guy, say that this guy is going to be a halfway mark between here and libertarian paradise. Are you kidding me? You really think you can elect your way out of the hell that is Washington, D.C.? That
Now,
there's
I
going to be
pretty much agree with you on this one.
That's why it's all pointless. Why would I want to support a candidate in any way, shape, or form who isn't talking about principle? At least with the Libertarian Party candidate, like in the year 2000, Harry Brown was a principled individual who was bringing the ideas of freedom to the table. To me, that's what a political campaign is for. I'm not running for governor in New Hampshire because I think I'm going to win or even desire to win. I'm running so I can put the ideas of liberty out so people can experience them, they can assess them. And Rand Paul's not doing that, as you've pointed out. He's this kind of halfway guy who's telling lies so he can get into office from your perspective. That's not exciting. It's not spreading the ideas of liberty. It's just confusing people. It's muddying the term of libertarianism. This guy is bad news.
Let me ask you this, Pizza Guy. Let me ask you this. I think this is a really important question. So Rand Paul's going to get a call to libertarian from now until the day he's elected or loses, right? And therefore, and the chances are good that a man who gets elected president is not going to be able to enact enough libertarian-oriented policies, and even these liberty-oriented policies are likely to take more than 4 years to turn around. Don't you think that it's true that a liberty-oriented candidate, or even a halfway liberty-oriented candidate, could very well be do as much damage to the ideas of liberty as they could help?
So it has to do with humility, right? So I'm not a god. I wish I was. I think I am in the back of my mind, but I'm really
I got
not.
you. Same here.
I don't know how we get from here to there. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or the next day. The only thing I can do is take a look at the world around me. And you guys get into this all the time. This is the bigger philosophical issue. And it's all about epistemology and lack of knowledge. I don't know what anybody wants or anybody's thinking. I always have to try to imagine everybody has the best of intentions.
And they
I
don't.
have to look at how we get from here to there. There's so many different possibilities. One of them is that everything just collapses and we start over. That's a possibility. I don't know. That's definitely not where I wanted to be. Do I think the political process can work? No, I don't. I'm so with you, Ian. I don't believe.
So why
that it's
work
gonna
yourself up over a half-assed candidate like
because
Rand Paul?
I don't know that it won't work.
Here's what I want to
work. If it is going to work, if we're going to have a peaceful political revolution from here to there, if it is going to work politically, I don't know if it will. I don't know that it won't. I don't know. It's all about humility. I don't know if it is or is not going to work.
Where's Rand Paul's humility?
There's only one way from here to there, and Rand Paul is what that middle ground looks like. If it's going to
the
work.
holy grail of politics.
You've sort of gone through a number of different fallacies, and it's going to be difficult to address them in the 2 hours that we have left of the show. But first of all, you're saying if there's got to be more than one way to a given goal. So if something is not necessarily good, then there's no reason to pursue it because there are other ways of going about it. When we're talking about, especially when we're dealing with ideological libertarians, the reason I don't want to encourage them to support a guy like Rand Paul is because it dilutes the message, okay? Mm-hmm. And I'm somebody who argues with other anarchists about diluting the message, much less a guy who like Rand Paul who's going to support wars and all of this stuff, man. I mean, it's like, not to mention people are going to be sending this guy money. You're talking about how is the resources that are expended in the libertarian movement. There's a lot of different things that we can do.
Let's come back with this here in moments, and if you want, you can hang on for it, Pizza Guy. 855-450 free. You can share your thoughts here on Free Talk Live. All right, we go back to Pizza Guy. I don't remember who was trying to make a point when we were going away. It was Rand Paul.
I was going off a little bit here. And the thing is that I have with electoral politics, and look, there are, and I gave a similar discussion at the Libertarian Party convention in Suffolk and Nassau counties in New York before I left for New Hampshire, which is basically like the purpose of them is not necessarily to be trying to win these elections. Okay, go forth when you're a candidate for public office. People are listening to you. It's an opportunity to get the message out to people that you would not normally otherwise get, as
Absolutely.
we saw with you at the debate, which your opponent never showed up for. It's a good opportunity to talk to people and spread a message. So if somebody's a good messenger, I don't have any problem with them running for office.
Right.
What I have a problem with guys like Rand Paul is that they are going to sap resources away from the libertarian movement. So say that the maximum contribution is like $2,400, and I think it's $2,400 during the primary and then $2,400 during the actual race. And this is okay. So now someone's going to go and donate $4,800 to Rand Paul's candidacy, which is not going to effectively spread the message of liberty at all.
No, because
it's really
as
not going to do that.
Pizza Guy admitted earlier, he's already compromised. He was talking about if you support compromise and if you support incrementalism.
I don't.
Well, no. What I support is people bringing the ideas of liberty to the table. I understand that will inevitably result in compromise, but like here in New Hampshire, I'd rather have people come into the State House talking about ending prohibition, and then we can meet in the middle on ending cannabis prohibition.
Okay. So I don't want to narrow the discussion, but if you think about people, there are people who love the status quo. Think about the people who are like, 100 violence? This is great. I love what's happening now.
So explain to them what's wrong with that instead of giving them
pandering.
Yeah, you don't pander to these people. If you're dealing with violent, dangerous people, why are you going to tell them, hey, look, I like violence and dangerous and deception too? It's just a stupid thing to do, and people are going to give them money, man. They're going to sap away resources. I mean, if somebody gave, somebody's going to donate $4,800 to Rand Paul or $4,800 to the Keene Activist Center or the Brutalist House across the street, I can tell you who's going to get more out of that money.
Absolutely.
Those who are at 100 violence right now, there are people who advocate it, but they're ripe. They are ripe for the reaping to take them down a peg. But you have to donate that money to somebody who's going to advate a 50.
No, I don't have to donate that money to those people. If I'm going to give money to somebody who's running in politics, I'm only going to give money to somebody who's bringing a message to the table that I find valuable. And Rand Paul doesn't do that almost never.
Which is why all of you should immediately go to ChristopherCantwell.com/donate.
There you go.
So all you're doing with those people is bringing the small minority that's already at 15, bringing them down to a 0. Great. You brought 15s down to a 0, which is immaterial. What we're going after is the mainstream.
I disagree.
Skeptical of Rand
You can
Paul.
go after the mainstream, brother. I'm not interested, and I thank you for the call tonight. I appreciate it. I want to find the people who understand the ideas of liberty. I want to bring them here to New Hampshire. I'm done with Washington, D.C. I don't care what goes on in Washington, D.C. I'm under no delusion that I have any effect on Washington, D.C. There's no reason for me to spend money. If I was going to give money, I did give money to Ron Paul. And the reason I gave money to Ron Paul was because I felt he was bringing at least a principled enough message to the table. You can quibble on some things, sure, but he was bringing a principled enough message to the table and doing it in a way that was getting people excited, bringing people to the ideas of liberty. There were people who've moved to New Hampshire because they found the ideas of freedom through Ron Paul. So that I support that.
Well, I'm of the opinion, first off,
that's communication.
I've got 3 different levels of sort of involvement with a politician. I'm willing to vote for them is the lowest level.
Mm-hmm.
The second lowest level is I'm willing to endorse them. I'm not going to have sex with them at any point. I'm willing to endorse them on the air. And my third level is I'm going to give them money. I'm willing to go level 1 and perhaps maybe level 2 with the Rand Paul.
Okay. Did you give money to Ron Paul?
I'm willing to go to second base. I did give money to Ron Paul. I'm willing to go to second base with Rand Paul because I know that we're going to have a president in 2016. That means that he's going to be in a position of power and he's going to harm a certain amount of people.
There's no president in the Shire Society, brother. I'm not having a president.
Whatever. There is going to be a president in the United States of America, and I still get a vote for that. And I'm going to be look. It's not much, but in the Republican primary in New Hampshire, it does mean something. You cannot discount that, because there's not going to be that many people that go out and vote. So, yeah, I'm going to vote for him because I will vote for the taskmaster that administers 3 whips as opposed to the taskmaster that administers 5. I'm happy to do that.
I'm not convinced he's that guy.
I'll go ahead and say that I'll probably vote for him in the primary as well. And if he wins the primary, I'd even vote for him for president. But I don't want to support, like, go out and be all gung-ho and say Rand Paul, and I don't want to send him any money just because it's a misallocation of resources. I think that if we're going to try to, fix this problem, the problem gets fixed when people understand the nature of the problem. And he's going to do absolutely nothing to help people understand the problem. So if Rand Paul is president instead of Hillary Clinton, don't get me wrong, I understand that Rand Paul is going to do a lot less damage policy-wise, but I also don't want Rand Paul to increase belief in the system. I don't want libertarians going more towards like, well, maybe I should compromise with the neocons. I want them to come more towards like, no, I have no compromise on aggression.
Totally agree. In fact, I think that Rand Paul has some things in common. If it's true that he's this liar and that he's out there just trying to sound like he works inside the system and he's really a secret anarchist or whatever, there's a real problem that we have in New Hampshire where certain people who are Free State Project participants are hiding that fact. When they're asked if they're a Free State Project participant and they're running for political office, they're trying to obfuscate that information. And I feel like that's the same. I think that's the same level of dishonesty and deception, and I'm not interested in supporting people campaigning like that. Be out there in the open. Stand up for what you believe in. Don't be a coward.
Okay. Well, I don't think that it's necessarily a negative thing to deny involvement in the FSP Inc. I have my problems with the Free State Project Inc. Well, I'm not any longer, right? And in the course of getting expelled from the Free State Project, like sort of it made me aware of some things that I don't appreciate about the Free State Project Inc. I'm very big
board
fan
of directors
of the Free State Project movement, but this corporation is sort of like going through a lot of money and is really shady about what they're doing and not being honest with the people who are paying them.
But the person asking that question during politics doesn't know about any of that stuff. That's more like internal.
They don't even know what the Free State Project is in vast majority of the time.
Toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. All I'm saying is if somebody's being dishonest, they don't have my support. Stand up for what you believe in. Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.